and it's submitted by NRA members Heather Demarest of Holland, Ohio, and Kim Corrado of Westerville, Ohio, and reads as follows. Whereas on November 17, 1871 in New York, New York, the National Rifle Association of America, parentheses NRA, was founded, incorporated, and acted to establish its principal place of business in New York. And whereas the NRA subsequently moved its principal place of business to Washington, D.C., and later to Fairfax, Virginia. And whereas the Board of Directors of the NRA passed the following resolution reproduced below at its September 9, 2023 meeting, and I'll read that when we get to it. Now therefore be it resolved that the membership of the NRA at its NRA annual meeting of members in Dallas, Texas on May 18, 2024 supports and applauds the decision of the Board of Directors to relocate the association to Texas. And further be it resolved, the membership of the NRA urges that this move takes place with all possible due care and speed. Now, I've mentioned that it refers to the resolution of the Board of Directors, so I'll read that. And this is a resolution adopted at the board meeting on September 9, 2023. Whereas the National Rifle Association of America continuously seeks to gain strategic and operational advantages in support of its mission and its members, and whereas Texas ranks as the #1 state for NRA membership with approximately 350,000 members, and whereas the political and regulatory climate in Texas is historically decisively pro-Second Amendment, and whereas the most senior levels of the political leadership of Texas have openly endorsed the association relocation to Texas, and whereas the NRA formed the Special Committee on Relocation in May 2021 in accordance with the NRA bylaws, and whereas the Special Committee on Relocation has commissioned an independent relocation study on behalf of the NRA, toured several office sites in North Texas, and carefully considered the strategic advantages of the NRA establishing a principal place of business in Texas. Now therefore be it resolved that the NRA Board of Directors offers its support of the Executive Vice President to further explore the establishment of a principal place of business in Texas, conduct any business in support of that endeavor, and work with the Special Committee on Relocation to determine the most effective organizational framework, staffing, and implementation timeline to establish such an executive office.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Would anyone like to speak on this resolution in support of the relocation to Texas? Would the gentleman at microphone 1B please give your name, city, and state? And
Tim Campbell from Prescott, Arizona.
thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Just my question is, from the business standpoint, about the fiscal impact, the studies I assume you've done, because it's the studies I assume you've done on the fiscal impact of leaving Virginia, coming to Texas, and so on. I know we're in some challenging times with our monies, and I'm very curious and very adamant about requiring a fiscal impact study to see where we stand on this.
Okay, I think I understood most of your question. You believe me, it's me, not you, sir. Please stay at the mic in case what I'm about to say doesn't answer your question. And before we actually started seriously considering moving to Texas, we retained a consulting firm that had extensive expertise in comparing cities for various major corporations that make moves. We considered, if I remember correctly, 6 cities in 5 different states. There may have been 6 states, I'm not sure. All that information was presented to the Board of Directors. The report had both columns of numbers, to be honest with you, as well as graphs, that showed the comparison of several factors. The cost of living in certain areas, the business climate in these various cities and states, the workforce available in those cities and states, and frankly, there's a lot of other factors that I just can't recall at this moment. That is what was the base of the decision to explore the move to Texas. Other factors were things like there are more Fortune 500 companies that are home-based either natively or moved here than any other state in the country. Those are all business factors that came into it. I believe you asked about the move costs and stuff like that. Am I correct?
Right, and I appreciate what you're saying about the economic development side of things coming to a place like Texas. I'm sure it's a wonderful business climate to come to. But what my specifically, and I apparently asked my question poorly, the fiscal impact on this organization, we've got a lot of assets back in Virginia, and the actual physical costs to this organization and the studies done on that, so this group could know what it's going to cost to actually make a move like this.
I'm going to ask our executive vice president to answer that. He's got the detailed information.
There are several parts, several factors that I'd like to present. I'm going to start off with the state of the headquarters in Virginia. That building is approximately 280,000 plus square feet. Currently, post-COVID, we have roughly 60 to 70 people come to the building in any given week. That's way too much space for what we have at this point in time, and there's a lot of space not being utilized. The other point to consider is that building is aging, and per some real estate companies, it would take us anywhere from $20 to $30 million to bring the building up to standard to be able to rent it out. We also have some structural issues with the building that we are addressing currently. That brings us to another issue. I think a big area of concern would be the cost of moving our beloved museum. We have spoken to major donors in Texas who are very enthusiastic about helping fund a museum over here, built into the cost of naming rights in for the museum on the outside, galleries on the inside, and other. We're gonna just name everything and let people have the opportunity to give us money for it. All those, the cost of moving, the cost of having a curator, the cost of transportation, the cost of security as we move those valuable assets from Virginia to Texas, and including the hiring of a curator to make sure that the guns that we load out in Virginia do end up in Texas, everyone is accounted for, will be built into the naming rights project. So we've given it some thought. The other thing to consider would be, we understand we're not a big corporation that has the ability to tell our employees that, okay, September 1, everyone shows up at a seat in Texas, or else you don't have a job. No, we're not going to do that. What we will do is have a period of anywhere from 12 to 36 months to transition employees by division. We're still a member-based organization. We need to make sure, for example, the shows go on, the magazines go out. So we've given a lot of thought into this. Perhaps a big reason for supporting this move, and to be candid with you, I'm not sure if I can make the move. I have family issues. But one big reason to consider is the job market in Northern Virginia is, it's turning against gun rights. When we first went into Northern Virginia in the 90s, that whole area has changed completely. It's hard to find good talent. And while the talent pool in that job market will always be there for ICYMI, we have to consider the other parts of the organization as well. We have general operations programs. We have magazines. So, you know, we're struggling to find good talent. And, you know, we've hired some positions in Texas. And I have to say that the quality of candidates and resumes that we received were exponentially better than what we could have gotten in Northern Virginia.
Does that answer your question, sir?
No, sir. You talked around about a lot of things. I'm just no country sheriff, so let me break it down into a simple question. Do you know what it's going to cost us to move? And we need to know that before we can vote with an educated mind. What's it going to cost?
The single biggest thing to move is the museum, and Andrew explained that. That's going to be paid by our donors. Don't have to be in Texas, but the Texas donors are the ones that have stepped up and said, we want to take care of this for you. So what you're talking about now in the way of a move is really minuscule. We won't move furniture. We'll move long-standing trophies. We're not going to move that. We'll just buy that furniture down here. In terms of the overall cost, though, you would have to consider the cost of operation in Texas versus the cost of operation in Northern Virginia. And let's be honest, Northern Virginia right now is nothing more than DC South. So do we know what United Airlines is going to charge to move the things that we have to move? No, sir, we don't know that. But we do know that that's a very small percentage of what's going to have to be moved, both in numbers, in physical numbers and in dollars. The biggest thing in numbers and dollars is the museum, and that's going to be covered by donors that are buying naming rights.
I appreciate that. But there's still headquarters. If you're not moving furniture, you're buying furniture. The infrastructure that goes along in there's a lot of hidden costs in there from any business move. So that's my concern in there is I'm challenged to make an educated decision without knowing the fiscal impact, the true fiscal impact. And you focused on the museum, but then you also, they just spoke as to the staff that may or may not move, or the new staff that gets hired, and the equipment they need, and so on. So I'm just looking for a real, honest to God.
As the resolution indicated, there is a relocation committee right now. We will present all of the information you have just described to the board to make the final decision. Okay, are we going to Texas? This resolution that's before us now supports that concept. It doesn't authorize the move because it's not needed. The board will be doing that. So what this resolution is talking about is the concept of moving to Texas. At the end of the day, it will be a net positive monetarily to the NRA.
Mr. President? And here. I do have one answer to the gentleman's the sheriff's question. With regard to furniture, for example, the current lease that we are considering would give us approximately $1 million in office furniture for free. So that's just one answer to one facet of the question.
If I was presenting my budget to a county council, I'd have to have real numbers. But I appreciate your answers and I appreciate your patience with me. Thank you, gentlemen.
Will the gentleman in microphone 2B please state your name, city, and state, and state your position.
Good morning. Bill Lockenberg, Allentown, Pennsylvania, on the board of directors running for first vice president. The resolution before us is premature. I know we got a lot of Texans in the room that are armed, so I'll be very careful what I say. And I feel like a Texan too. I've been deer shooting, hunting. I watch the country reporter all the time, so I feel like I know Texas pretty well. But I'm a lifetime member of the Rifle Fiscal Association. This is premature, this resolution. The information the sheriff over there has asked for has not been shared with the board. We have no information at all on what this move's going to cost, other than some information from different departments that this move could cost us $80 million, which we do not have. There are promises from donors, but we have no paper from them with an irrevocable letter of credit or a bond. So there is no donors out there right now that committed significant dollars to this move. We have an election this fall that we cannot be distracted on. It's the board's responsibility to look out for your fiscal, our donors' best interests and our members' best interests. We have a fiduciary responsibility for that. And at this time, I cannot support a move or a resolution that, contrary to what they're saying, puts the board into a situation that we almost have to vote for it. Because you members, and we work for you, okay? We don't work for the board and for other board members. We work for you. And if you tell us you want to move to Texas, that holds a lot of weight on the board. But we still have a fiduciary responsibility to manage your duties. $80 million is about 2.6 million members. That's a lot of dues to pay for a move. We got a great building in Fairfax, Virginia. It has some deferred maintenance. You cannot move that museum to Texas and rename the exhibits, because I'm a sponsor of the American Revolution exhibit that I paid for 20-something years ago, and every one of those exhibits were sponsored, including the gallery by Bill Ruger. So you cannot rename these exhibits, or I'm going to come after you on that. The board has a responsibility to look at this. We need the numbers shared. They haven't shared the numbers with us. Maybe it does make business sense, but it's not something to jump on right now with a rush to get out of here by 12 o'clock and see Donald Trump. I want to see him too, but we cannot rush this, people. The fate of our organization depends on what we're doing on Monday. Don't make any mistake about it. And I know the gentleman over there is going to call for the question to shut off the opposition, which is their tactic. And we're not going to allow that. We have some other speakers here that need to speak, because you deserve to hear what's going on and not be cut off by a gentleman over there that's going to tell us call for the question. So thank you. I appreciate your support.
I will respond to that. My friend and colleague, Mr. Boxenberg, admitted to the board something that we already knew, and that is he hasn't really been around for 5 years. He is mistaken when he says that the information that Mr. Arillanandam presented never was presented. He was mistaken when he said the same thing about the information I presented. It was presented in detail. I have no clue where he comes up with this $80 million move figure. Just simply no support for that number at all. Would the gentleman at microphone 1A please state your name, city, and state your position?
You talking to me, son?
Yes, sir.
My name's Jay Prince. I'm a retired sheriff, like this other guy. I know a little bit about budgeting and things like that. I'm a Marine, combat veteran from Vietnam. Hoorah! And I say, bullshit. That guy can't read my mind about anything I'm going to do. I'm not going to call the question. I'm basically going to support this resolution. This is not a done deal. This is merely a cog in the wheel process that we're going through, and the board is going through. It's not like we're going to move tomorrow because we decided this is a good idea. That's not how the board works. The board works in a very comprehensive, limited way in trying to work our way through problems. Are we right all the time? The hell no. Who in here is right all the time? I want to see a show of hands because I know that's bullshit. Oh, by the way, there's a pool on how many bad words, I'd say today. So I don't know how much money you got on this, but I've already lost. All right. So anyway, the point being is I support this motion, but it's not like we're going to move tomorrow. This process is going to continue. All of this,
You know, if I built a house and somebody created a pig farm around my house, I'd sure as hell want to get out. And in Virginia, that's what's happened. A pig farm has grown up around our house. New York is a pig farm. We got there in 1871 and things were different then. We need to get the hell out of New York too. If we don't get out of New York, we're going to face more of the bullshit that we get from them every day. Let's start planning, and my biggest regret on being on the board is not getting insisted on getting the hell out of New York a few years ago. We're there because we screwed up. Let's get out of there. Would the gentleman at microphone 2B please state your name, city, and state, and your position on this resolution?
Rob Pincus, St. Augustine, Florida, and thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against this resolution. I agree with some of the people who mentioned that we do not have the financial information that we need as members. I understand the weight of the members directing the directors to do their job and serve the membership in something like this. And I think it's premature for us to do it, as has been said. This is also asking us to support a legacy resolution from a legacy board. We've had these meetings for many years over issues of turmoil and issues of change and need for transparency. And that need for transparency still exists. The change has begun. The NRA was found to be a victim. Mr. President, you've mentioned that several times. It's been mentioned that the NRA was found to be a victim of a crime and is owed monies. But what's conspicuously missing is the mention of the man who did that. Mr. Wayne LaPierre was a major contributor to that victimization, and the people who have supported him and defended him are conspicuously avoiding his name today, are still up here and still hold power. I believe that can change Monday, and should change on Monday. And after Monday, there'll be a new board that can look into all of these issues to give the information with transparency to the members so that we can support or not support members from an educated position, as Sheriff Campbell mentioned. I think it's incredibly important to understand where we sit now, knowing that the board, the officers, you've heard the members speak. The top 3 of the top 5 vote getters in the ballots were members of the 4 reform slate candidates. The other one also made it. All 4 reform candidates. 2 past presidents did not get reelected to the board. And you know what that means. Members need to know what that means. We are being heard, change is in motion, and there's an opportunity on Monday to set things right with a proper slate of leadership that will answer to the members and then be able to consider this move. Because this move sounds great. I'm not against Texas. But let's remember the history of the organization, going back to that 1977 revolution, says we need to be where the fight is. Because there was an opportunity to take the NRA to Arizona and just play at the Whittington Center and be a recreational sport organization. But it's not. It's a political organization. That fight is in the Mid-Atlantic. As much as I've left Virginia too, I get it. That's where the fight is. That's where the organization needs to have a presence, even if it's only ILA. But these decisions need to be made by the new board with an educated membership supporting or refuting those resolutions. I think it's also important to note that the insolvency that apparently is being threatened on the organization includes a $20 million recently reported demand from the Brewer Law Agency to be paid immediately. And he's here in Dallas too. And we don't need his talents any deeper into this organization. Thank you.
Mr. Pincus, I need to respond to that, at least a couple of points. First of all, this resolution is not a board resolution. It is submitted by NRA board, NRA members that are not members of the board. Secondly, your implication of your statement about four new board members is that there's never a change in the board. That's not true. Since we started the battle with the New York AG in 2018, there are 31 new board members. The board is constantly rotating. It's not this monolithic body that you and others have tried to claim. Almost half of the board is rotated out since 2018.
Mr. President, Mr. Boyd, did you tell us if you had any role in the writing of this resolution, by any chance?
No, sir.
He can't?
I have no.
I'm asking Mr.
Can I finish my speech, my answer, sir? I have no involvement in
I was asking Mr. Coy.
it. I'm sorry?
Mr. Coy.
As chair of the relocation committee and the evidence that I've seen, yes, sir, I do support it.
The question is, did Mr. David Coy have anything to do with the involvement of writing this resolution?
I don't know.
Can we ask him?
Short answer, yes, I did. And I enlisted the aid of two friends who are in the audience to introduce it so we could have this discussion. And the discussion is appreciated. But yes, the upper portion of the resolution was my handiwork. The lower portion of the resolution, identified as Resolution 1, September 9, 2023, was passed by the board. I did not have, as a board member participating at that meeting, certainly I read it and had input. Did I actually author that portion of the resolution? No.
Thank you for the clarification and the honesty and transparency, very much. That was the board resolution I was referring to, Mr. President. But this resolution supports that board resolution and is clearly part of the legacy establishment agenda. And I just think that agenda should be tabled. This resolution should not be passed. Let the new board, if they think this is a good idea, explain to the membership why. Thank you.
Would the gentleman at microphone 1B please take? My friend and colleague, Ms. Heil, is mistaken about a couple of things. First of all, the resolution that the board passed, and if I remember correctly, Ms. Heil, I think you voted for it. In fact, I think it was unanimous, but I may be wrong there. That resolution offered support for the exploration of a permanent move of the entire facility to Texas. That was not needed in order for the EVP to sign a lease in Texas for temporary space here to establish a principal place of business, not moving the entire organization, so that we could further explore. Are our donors in Texas going to do what they say that they're going to do? What kind of support can we get from the state of Texas? So I think you are combining two totally separate issues. The permanent move is what the board authorized the EVP to explore. He didn't need the board approval as the executive vice president to set up temporary space here to continue that exploration.
So the EVP can spend more money to go and explore before we get more information that we need. Is that what you're saying?
No, actually what I'm saying is, and I know Andrews does have those numbers, this temporary space that we've got here, at the end of the day, is going to save us, is it $2.something million? It's going to save us $2.6 million.
That depends, that savings depends on a lot of different variables. So I don't agree with that, but also hiring people here in in Texas, that's not good. That does not look good. Again, this is all putting the cart before the horse. And again, I don't agree with it. Thank you for your time.
Does it look like Pennsylvania is telling us to move to Texas? Would the gentleman at microphone 2A please state your name, city, and state your position on this resolution? Okay, would the lady at microphone 1B please state your name, city, state, and your position on the resolution?
So my name is Amanda Suffolk. My city and state is Wayland, Ohio. I am on the board. And so I concur with Maria that I've got 40 years, I think 40 years of engineering experience, and exploratory committees are just that, exploratory, to bring back data to make informed decisions, not you vote for an exploratory and then you end up being pushed in that direction. It was not a resolution to move. I really want to urge everyone to vote against it, because I look at the pedigree of the board of directors and look at the skill sets of the people you voted to be the board, and give them the tools to have a rousing discussion using the skills and experiences of that board, and that discussion has not taken place. Using the need of the repair of the building that we neglected as a reason for moving, that smacks to me like taking an axe to my car so that I can explain to my husband that it is no longer in a condition where I can drive it and I need a new one. We have a chairman for the museum, Phil Schreier, who's considered the best in the country. He's not here talking to us either. I actually, because of timing, I would like to call the question, because we have 3 minutes left before this meeting automatically ends.
Ms. Suffolk is my friend and my colleague. Let me ask you this, and let me ask if I'm mistaken. You've been on the board, what, less than a year?
Exactly.
Hang on. So you were not there, you were listening to
How long have you been running this thing in the ground?
What was your last name on the Suffolk?
And I did call the question, ask for the vote.
The question has been called. It's a non-debatable point of order. All those in favor of calling the question and going directly to the vote on the proposed resolution, raise your credentials. Okay. Put them down. All opposed to going straight to the question, raise your credentials. The ayes have it, and the question now is on adoption of the resolution in support of the relocation to Texas. All those in favor, please raise your credentials. Put them down. All opposed, please raise your credentials. Mr. Secretary, can you tell?
I voted with you. You don't need to count for that.
The secretary can count better than I can. He said the noes have it, so the resolution fails. And with that, we have reached the noon hour, which is please, you haven't been recognized, please. According to the shutdown time that was adopted in the agenda by the entire body, I declare this meeting adjourned.